What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the TNT Smoke Factory. Playoff season is officially upon us. And with that being said, we have to mention the most important players and groups to this college football playoff, the players and groups that will shape how this playoff goes.
Yes.
So we have 12 players, but that does not mean every team is getting a mention in this video. I'm going to say it right now. SMU, you don't have a team. Or not a team, but you don't have a player.
You don't have a
you mention. Have a team. Sorry.
You don't have a mention.
Yeah, you don't have a mention. You don't have a group. You don't have a player. You don't have a mention. So we're going to get straight to it with number 12, which is Quinn Ewers.
Okay.
Coming off of that injury, we see some inaccurate decisions from him.
But it's not just his inaccuracy after the injury. It looks like his confidence might be a bit shaken. When you really look at his performance in that Georgia game, you would have expected coming that second half, hey, they're about to turn it up and they're about to take control. But then you look at some of the passes that Quinn was making, he kept Georgia alive, not only by turnovers, but you look at the critical points where he missed receivers that could have been conversions into first downs and beyond. That's even more of a big point.
Yeah, so Quinn Ewers, this Texas team is going to need you
to have your focus game on.
Yeah, because if not, we're turning our attention to Arch Manning.
Yes.
So you have to turn it up. This Texas team, I do believe they're going to need you to take this championship run that they want to make. Quinn Ewers, it's time. It's playoff season. You got to step it up. Speaking of needing to step up, we have to get to our number 11, which is our first group, the Georgia wideouts.
Yes.
I don't want to say this Georgia receiving core sucks because that would be a lie.
Yeah,
they don't suck. They have a lot of talent, but they drop a lot of passes. Yes. The most drop passes in the FBS this year.
They have a tendency to drop the ball in the critical moments. Again, talking about conversions of first downs, and they're dropping passes that should be first downs. So it's moments like that make you create more doubt about their abilities, but they are a very talented group. They just have to keep their focus. All year long, I've been talking about the same word, consistency. That is what they have to be able to produce throughout this playoff is consistency. Consistently producing at the critical moments. That's what that unit needs to focus on.
Yeah, so Georgia wideouts, I need 100 catches on the jugs every day leading up to this playoff game against you have the bye, so you have even more time.
You got more time to do it.
Get on the jugs. Our number 10, most important player or group to the college football playoff, Jeremiah Love, the running back out of Notre Dame.
He is a unit of himself.
Yes, we always want to talk about Genty and everybody else, but he's going underrated.
Yeah.
They are relying on this run game. They're starting to lean on it. And like you mentioned when we were talking, the run game travels. And that's the biggest piece. It's going to be cold in South Bend when they play Indiana, and they're going to need to run the ball. They can get a burst with this run game out of Jeremiah Love.
And it becomes critical for this first game because Indiana has not shown themselves to be very stout against the run.
Yeah.
So don't lose your identity, Notre Dame. Stick with who you are. Give Jeremiah Love the ball, and I think you should see some good things at the end of the game. You'll have the W that you're looking for.
Now, to move on to our next player, we mentioned the run game traveling.
Going to the same
that's
scenario.
What Tennessee is going to bring into the shoe with the SEC Offensive Player of the Year, Dylan Sampson, running back for Tennessee. Dylan Sampson is a beast. He's a monster. Over 1,400 yards on the season.
Okay.
That's incredible stats. He's going to be the reason, the make or break to Tennessee's playoff run.
Yes.
Because if they do find a way to get out of the shoe with a victory, what was the thing that beat Oregon or almost beat Oregon in the Big Ten championship game?
Running the ball.
The run game. Penn State put up 297 rush yards on that Oregon defense. If he can keep it going and this Tennessee O-line can hold up, that opens up the pass game, makes the passes a little bit easier on Nico. Dylan Sampson will be a huge piece to whether or not Tennessee makes that playoff run or loses in the shoe.
Yeah, and I mean, you not even going into the second round of the playoffs, looking strictly at the first round against Ohio State. Ohio State has not shown themselves to be overly stout against the run. Yeah, the stat line looks good, but when you think about critical moments, people have been able to run the ball against Ohio State at times when they shouldn't. Now, Caleb Downs, awesome Ohio State player. If you start using Dylan Sampson to your advantage and force them to bring Caleb down into the box, force them to bring Ransom down into the box, now that opens up things for Nico to have a much wider field to play from. And he is accurate in bigger gaps.
To get to our number 8 player, Tez Johnson. I promise you, I'm not lying when I say this. It genuinely looked like he was flying when we were at that Big Ten championship game. It looked like he wasn't human. He is a very fast receiver.
Yes,
and
very
he
fast.
keeps this Oregon offense going. When they would hit him across the middle, big gains almost every time. He torched that Penn State defense. Torched them. Tez Johnson is going to be a huge reason why Oregon's offense is going to keep going in the playoffs, and it will be a huge reason why they have success on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, and when you look at his whole game, you cannot underestimate the play calling that is going along with it. They understand how to get him involved. A big piece of his success is the way that they kept moving him. They wouldn't just line him up in the slot and let him run from there. They kept motioning him into the slot, creating those mismatches as well. It seemed like each time that they needed long yardage, he always was coming across that middle. Even at a couple times where they weren't able to get him the ball across the middle, he was still there. This guy was consistently running open that entire night. He was a bad matchup for that Penn State defense, and Oregon used it to their advantage, so much so that he ended up being the player of the game.
We have to get on to number 7, the defensive player of the year in the Big Ten, Abdul Carter, rusher from Penn State.
Monster.
He could be a game wrecker. And specifically looking at who he's going up against, SMU, they have a pretty explosive offense. If he can get in that backfield and kind of, rush the quarterback, speed him up, not only physically, but mentally, speeding up his decision-making, he could single-handedly wreck that game plan for SMU. Then you move to the second round. Abdul Carter versus Ashton Genty. I'd love to see it. That's cinema right there. There's nothing else to talk about. Abdul Carter will make or break how this Penn State defense performs simply by his ability to get into the backfield.
Yeah, and I'm not even going to say his ability to get all the way to the quarterback. He needs to influence the blocking scheme so that he has to take on double teams. They're watching him on all kind of twisting games to the effect that the opposite side of the defensive line needs to get activated, and they need to be getting to the quarterback. So if you take the attention and you say, hey, we can't double team Abdul Carter because the other side is coming so hard. Then if we get people blocking one-on-one with Abdul Carter, or maybe even one on and the only other thing they're getting is a chip from a tight end or from a running back, I think that's where he can become most effective.
Now, to get on to our number 6 takeaway, the man that hasn't had a matchup that can really, truly guard him all season.
Ridiculous.
Jeremiah Smith.
Ridiculous.
One of the best receivers in college football already as a freshman. And like I mentioned, we haven't seen anybody that can really match up well against him.
Nope.
No team. He can put up yards. The thing that Ohio State was missing in that Michigan game, he didn't have a target in the second half, which is crazy. Because if you look at the first half footage of that game,
they did everything to hold him. The coaches didn't care. They'll give up the 15 yards. Michigan didn't care. Give up the 15 yards. We're not giving them the long ball.
Because they couldn't guard him. And on the play he scored, he bullied the DB.
Yeah.
Nobody, as we've seen, nobody can match up with this guy. Nobody can match up. Ohio State, realize what you have and put his potential on full notice in these playoff games. I don't care if his body is sore. I don't care about none of that. He needs to get the type of attention Ohio State was giving Jackson Smith and Jigba in that Rose Bowl game.
Yes, the same game plan between him and Marvin Smith or Marvin Harrison Jr. They need that same type of energy going into the playoff or with their playoff game plan. They need to be. It needs to be a heavy dose. Recognize who you are. Get this man the ball. Ohio State, you are a shiny, fancy car. Don't spend time in the shiny, fancy car acting like you're a daggone tugboat trying to run the ball up the middle. That is not you. You're a shiny, fancy car. Get the glitz and glamour of the ball. And that starts with Jeremiah Smith.
To get to our fifth most important player or group that will shape this college football playoff, we have Dillon Gabriel of Oregon.
Yes.
Now, Dillon Gabriel, you have so many weapons around you. Mm-hmm. And really, in that Big Ten championship, there were times where you were really clicking. Mm-hmm. You look at before half where they click, and got all the way down there for a field goal.
Yes.
There were other times, and specifically on shorter passes like screens, you kept dirting the ball.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if the ball didn't feel right. I don't know if you just wanted to get some turf on it.
You're indoors, so that's just a lack of focus, lack of mechanics.
You were throwing the ball straight into the turf.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be inconsistent in this playoff, especially with the weapons around you. If you're playing well, this Oregon offense, like I said, they're flying.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody can keep up with them. They're too fast. They're flying around the field. But if you're inconsistent, that allows for longer down situations. One of the main things I kept telling you in that Big Ten championship, Penn State needs to force Oregon into third and long situations. And really, Dillon Gabriel, you were the ones giving them that. On first down, multiple times, you guys tried to go to the screen. And like I said, you kept dirting the ball.
Yeah.
So, you know, I know most of the time it was just screen passes that you were inconsistent on. But if that affects the rest of your play and you become ineffective or inaccurate in the shorter distance and then the longer distance, that slows down this Oregon offense and allows for defenses to really have a chance.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you really look at it, it seemed like their game plan and their focus during that championship was on pace, keeping the pace hot on the Penn State defense. But every time that you've seen the Penn State defense get a break, get a chance to catch their breath, was on pass plays that were incomplete. Whenever it was an incomplete pass play, the Oregon offense slowed down. So if they want to keep that frenetic pace that they were attempting to play with, then they need to keep the accuracy of Dillon Gabriel high. Second thing that with Dillon Gabriel, I think in this championship run, he's going to have to be a little bit more focused, just a little bit more focused on utilizing his legs. There were a few times where he attempted some passes that were not really ill-advised, but it was going to be a difficult pass to complete. And he did that over the choice of running the ball where he could have picked up some positive yards and left them, again, with third and short, but they ended up with third and long because of his decision-making.
Yeah. To get to our fourth most important player or group that will shape this college football playoff, we have to talk about the Ohio State offensive line. Now, in that Michigan game, Ohio State tried to be someone they
were not.
And that's a tough team.
Mm-hmm.
And it started up front. You wanted to run the ball, but you can't because your O-line, I understand they're banged up, but what happened to the next man up mentality? What happened to that? That offensive line was getting beat up by Michigan. Michigan was running through that O-line. If Ohio State wants to truly run the ball, try and be someone they're not, or even pass the ball, because this Tennessee defensive line is very, very good. They're very good. This O-line is going to be tested, and OSU is going to need this O-line to step up. We said it in the beginning of the season. If OSU's O-line will play tough and step up, they're the best team against anybody. Yep. No question, especially with the weapons around them. But they haven't shown up. And that's the reason OSU is not getting that ground game going, and they're failing. We need to see a Penn State performance from this OSU O-line. When they went to Penn State, Happy Valley, they showed up.
Yeah.
Where was that against Michigan? I don't know, but it better be there against Tennessee.
Well, when they've been a pretty much a makeshift bunch all season, and I think some of the cracks of that came out to bear against that Michigan team. But I wouldn't say that it came out to bear simply because of the personnel. It's the play calling as well. I look at the way that Ohio State is trying to utilize their backs, and to me, it seems like they have it backwards quite often. Uh, uh, um, it seems to me that you should see Travion running more of the off tackle plays, the outside zone schemes. It seems like that's more along the lines of being his bread and butter. And then you should instead have Judkins being the one that's running more inside zone, inside the tackles, inside that guard. He seems like when he gets ahead of steam going straight ahead, he's hard to stop. But yet and still, you see their play calling seem to be the reverse, and it's kind of inexplicable as to because when they get it going, then you see Henderson coming off the edge, coming around the edge, and gaining big yards. You see Judkins making people miss in tight and breaking runs. Why don't they stay with that same scheme and at least play to the strengths of the backs when you have an offensive line that is as banged up as theirs is?
Yeah. So OSU's O-line and play calling needs to step up this game against Tennessee. To get to our number 3 most important player or group that will shape this college football playoff, Tyler Warren of Penn State, the Swiss Army knife. He can do it all. But in that Big Ten championship game, it seemed like Penn State didn't want to utilize his ability to do it all.
Yes.
When he's on and clicking, this Penn State offense is a different offense.
Yeah.
And if you can, you don't have to spam him the ball, because you did show us something against Oregon that you might have a little bit more out there. But he needs to be getting touches.
Yeah. But against Oregon, there were some critical moments where they went away from him and they should have been getting him the ball. Some of this is going to be on Drew Aller and his decision-making itself. Being at the game where you can see all the routes that are being run, there were a few times, I can't even just say a couple, there were a few times where Aller just flat out missed him, and he was open, or he was in a mismatch situation where it's one-on-one with him against a smaller safety or a smaller defensive back. You got to see that situation as it starts to evolve, and you got to make a determined effort to get him the ball right then. If you know he's going to be in a good matchup situation, you can't be looking to say, oh, okay, well, maybe I'll look at my first read over here who's running whatever route, but maybe single covered, but he's in a tight matchup. And you got this guy, against a 5'11 DB. Get him the ball.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Tyler Warren needs more touches if you want to get to the national championship.
Yeah, he's going to have them.
To get to our number 2 most important player or group that will shape this college football playoff, we have to talk about Cam Scatterbo. Arizona State, the way they've been running the ball lately and just offense in general has been something special.
Yeah.
This kid came out of nowhere. He's going crazy right now. Nobody can seem to bring him down. He's a short dude, but he's a bowling ball. Just bouncing off of tackles, running for big gains. Nobody really wants to see this Arizona State team right now, and it's because of Cam Scatterbo in the backfield. Nobody can bring him down.
No. And you heard him say it. He's the best running back in the nation. Yeah, he may have went a little too far with that one. But I love the confidence. And he runs like he believes this. He does not believe that one player can take him down. He will take you on, try to ground you, and keep rolling. This guy has a huge amount of confidence. And guess what? His confidence is infectious because you see it all around him with all of the other players. These guys believe that they can win. They believe that they belong, and they believe they're going to do it all.
Yeah. And like you said, Cam Scatterbo, he believes he's the best running back in the nation. But that goes to our number 1 player, the most important player that will shape this college football playoff is Ashton Jeanty. We mentioned it. The run game travels, and yes, it does. Look at what happened when Boise State went head-to-head with the best team in the nation at their home stadium. They took them to the wire, and it's because of this guy, Ashton Jeanty. He's been running crazy all season. If that O-line can open up the holes for him, watch out. Because what he can do in open field is something special.
Yes. Shoot, what he can do between the guards is something special. His vision is incredible.
Yeah. Ashton Jeanty, Boise State, if you can run the ball, it sounds crazy, but you could make a run at this championship.
Yeah.
You could really make a run at the title. I truly believe that. It starts with Ashton Jeanty. If he can run the ball like he did in the regular season, everybody's in trouble.
Yes.
Especially the people on his side of the bracket. We saw Penn State struggle against the run. Georgia at times
struggled against the run.
Yeah, struggled against the run as well, specifically quarterback, but that's run in general.
Yeah.
They've struggled with the run. Indiana, Notre Dame, these teams have struggled. If Ashton Jeanty and that Boise State offensive line can put it together like they did in the regular season, it's not crazy to say that Boise State truly has a chance at winning it all.
Yeah, because you can't just say that Boise State played cream puffs all year. You got to remember, they went up to Oregon, the number 1 team in the nation currently. I believe they were the number 3 team in the nation at that point in time, 3 or 4, somewhere around that level. But they went into their home turf and played them to a 1-point loss.
3-point. On a game-winning field goal by Oregon.
Yeah, but
unless Oregon was down, I can't remember.
Put it like this. Oregon needed a game-winning field goal in order to beat them. And Ashton Jeanty produced in that game. If they bring the same energy into these playoffs, you better watch out. Boise State could be hoisting that trophy.
So that's our most important players and groups that will shape this college football playoff. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment, and we'll see you on the next one.